What's up, A to Z Sports Live on this Wednesday. Going to have a great show on this Wednesday as we continue to dive into the Titans offseason and some NFL news that DeAndre Hopkins is available on the trade market, according to a report around the NFL. And Titans fans know DeAndre Hopkins all too well from his several years in the AFC South with the Houston Texans, playing the Titans twice a year and regularly scoring touchdowns and going over 100 yards a game against the Titans secondary. So Orlando, I see, already has some strong opinions in here, as does Grim Jim. I see a lot of great opinions, and that's the deal, is DeAndre Hopkins being on the trade market is guaranteed to split this Titans fan base, and it's going to be a great show here today. So we'll discuss that, ask you guys your opinion on the potential of DeAndre Hopkins. Then we'll talk about the current Titans veteran wide receiver that they acquired in a trade from last year, Robert Woods, and what I think the Titans should do with Robert Woods this offseason. We'll go through his contract situation, ask you guys, what you guys think the Titans should do with Robert Woods. And on this Wednesday, we've got Shade Day, and I did see that who was it? Ryan in the comments on Facebook says he's already got his shade locked and loaded for today's show. So Zach, welcome in. We're going to have a great one on this Wednesday. Let's get this thing rocking and rolling.
Yeah, broadcasting live on 3 different platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We got you covered there. We will tweet out segment by segment our YouTube link on our Twitter at A to Z Sports. So follow us there at A to Z Sports on Twitter. We've got great content going out constantly and great content going out on YouTube. We're over 11,000, which we love. We're trying to get to 12,000 subscribers. That's the next notch, to then climb to 15 to 20 and then beyond. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you've already subscribed, go ahead and like this video, help the YouTube algorithm, get some maybe Cardinals fans in here and say, hey, what do they think, what the value is of DeAndre Hopkins, as we talk about that today. But subscribe to our YouTube channel or like this video if you've already subscribed, and that will help out the show. If you're on Facebook, you're a real OG from day one. We're almost close to 100,000 over there, as we've been broadcasting a lot longer on Facebook than YouTube. And if you're on Facebook, you got to do one thing, bottom left corner of your screen, share now to public. Sharing is caring, and caring is sharing on this show, as we say. So share the show around. More people are going to be piling in over the next 5 to 10 minutes. We got a big topic today, as a big star wide receiver is on the trade market. So we're going to talk about, there's a lot of moving pieces with the Tennessee Titans. Is one of those moving pieces going to be maybe in the DeAndre Hopkins sweepstakes? So we'll talk about that. Let's get this party started on a Shade Day.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us all over social media, as we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Follow us on Twitter at A to Z Sports. Links to the show every day there. Also hit us up for more Titans content on Instagram and TikTok. We got to thank our sponsors, because they absolutely make it happen for us, and they help out you guys, like Wilson County Hyundai. If you're looking for a new ride, make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying process by going to see them in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans. That's better coverage, rates, and service. Learn more about a health plan for you, fbhp.com/ATOZ. And Hughes & Coleman Injury Lawyers, the official injury lawyers of the Tennessee Titans. If you've been injured in a car wreck, Hughes & Coleman gives you a free case consultation at 800-800-4600. So, Zach, the news coming out yesterday, according to a report via Jordan Schultz on Twitter. Here's his tweet. Sources: the Arizona Cardinals plan to try to trade all-pro wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins this offseason. D-Hop has 2 years and $34.36 left on his contract and is likely to seek a new deal. Owner of the Cardinals, Michael Bidwell, plans to express this to GM candidates. So, Zach, that's that report from Schultz. And if you remember what's going on with the Cardinals are hitting even a bigger reset button than the Titans are, because the Cardinals fired head coach Cliff Kingsbury on Monday, and also GM Steve Keim is out. He did take a leave of absence, for lack of a better term, stepped away from the team back in December for personal and health issues, and he is officially no longer going to return to the Cardinals. So the Cardinals are trying to find a new GM, and as Jordan Schultz is reporting right there, the new GM has to understand that if you take this job, one of your first duties is to shop and trade away wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins.
I thought it was going to be one of your first duties is not to be fired within 6 years, because the Cardinals have been in the league for like a long time, right? St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, that comes up.
They've never had a head coach for 6 years or longer. Think about that.
A head coach?
Head coach.
But what about the GM, though?
The GM, he's on the chopping block constantly, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at what this franchise is. They went in, obviously, they went in on J.J. Watt and they went in on DeAndre Hopkins to help Kyler Murray to go make some waves in the playoffs, and that backfired. But, to get to that point, I don't think, they drafted Josh Rosen, and then they traded him away, which is a smart decision. Got Kyler Murray, which I think is all in question of if that was a smart decision. And, had the year of 11-6 in 2021. And then Kyler Murray had a disastrous game against the Rams, who eventually won the Super Bowl. And now they're like in complete reset mode. Like there's a buildup and then there's a reset way too quick when it comes to that franchise. And now they're at a reset and trading away some pieces. J.J. Watt's going to retire. But DeAndre Hopkins, and I think here's the question is like, how much tread does he have left on his tires? As, you look at, he's 31, right? So does he have one, two, three,
he's
four?
Currently 30. He does turn 31 in early June. So
what do we say?
He will be, again, I just want to.
But what do we say? What do you say, actually?
He will be 31 this season.
So he's 31 because that's where he's going to be playing next season, wherever he's going to be playing.
Okay.
So that's the age you should judge him by. Well, that's something that you always bring up.
But if you, Zach, here's my point of why I clarified that. Because if you say a guy is 31 right now in January.
I didn't say that. I said he's 31. We're talking about like
he's
what
not
he's
31,
going to be.
but like he will be 31.
You're going against every single thing that you always say. Do you not do this show for a living?
I do. I'm just saying we have to know that if never mind.
What do you always say?
That we talk about how old they will be next season.
So don't backtrack. Don't Dion me.
All right, I'm not Dioning you at all. I'm just saying if you say he is currently 31, then
I didn't say currently. You said currently.
You said he's 31. He is not 31 yet.
He's going to be 31 when he plays. So that's what you're
fine.
trading for.
Again, I was just clarifying, and
That's
you turned it into this ridiculous thing.
It's your rule. You don't need to clarify your rule. This is your rule on the show.
I'm clarifying your words that needed clarification because he is 31 in this upcoming season. That's
what he is because you're not getting a 30-year-old. You're getting a 31-year-old of whatever price you are.
Yes.
It's your rule.
Okay.
You have to be quiet on your rule when you go back on things. That doesn't make any sense.
All right. And thank you, Michael. All right, let's move forward. So he will be 31 this upcoming season. Do you know his contract situation? I mean, we know that
This is the out. The one thing is that this is the out. That's why they're trading him. And there's a lot more money on the horizon for DeAndre Hopkins on this contract as far as the salary is going. But the reports are that he's going to want a new deal. So, like, what does this actually represent? I think that's the big question.
Yes, he wants a new deal, and so there's money, financial situations that go in to the trading of DeAndre Hopkins. And so the good thing to know is that I'm about to say big numbers that is left on DeAndre Hopkins' contract, but we do need to remember that the team who is trading away the player is still on the hook for a decent portion of that contract. So here are the numbers on DeAndre Hopkins' contract. So in 2023, this upcoming season, DeAndre Hopkins will have a cap hit for the Cardinals of $30.7 million. That's a base salary of 19.4, a signing bonus of 5.5 that he's already been paid. So if DeAndre Hopkins is traded pre-June 1st, the Cardinals are still on hook for $22.6 million. That means the new team acquiring DeAndre Hopkins will have, the 8.1 or whatever million dollars moving forward. If the Cardinals trade DeAndre Hopkins post June 1st, that is split. They still have a lot on the hook, but the new team will have to acquire more money than pre-June 1st. So
think about it like this, Titans fans. This is the easiest way to think about it to some degree. When the Titans traded for Ryan Tannehill in his first year, the Titans did not pay the full salary of Ryan Tannehill. The Dolphins were on the hook for some of that money. But the issue is that DeAndre Hopkins wants a new deal. And so it won't be those figures, but creating a new deal will then put the new team on the hook for the money. And so, there's give and take there. The player wants stability. This is it in a nutshell. The team who currently has DeAndre Hopkins, which is Arizona, they want him off the books, or more money that is allocated towards him off of the books. And they want to get value for the player, for the current 30-year-old, but really the team that is trading for will be 31. So we speak to him as a 31-year-old. So they want to get him off the books or some portion of that time. DeAndre Hopkins wants a new opportunity because he's tired of playing for the Arizona Cardinals. So he wants to get out, and he is willing to restructure a deal, but he also wants the security and the future value of what he actually thinks he's worth. Right. And then the new team wants an all-pro wide receiver that won't perform at the Julio Jones clip of the last 2 seasons, but an aging wide receiver that still's got things left in his tank, and it could score touchdowns and be more of what we know DeAndre Hopkins can be.
Yeah, and so DeAndre Hopkins, look, the Cardinals had a terrible year, right? And so whenever a team has a terrible year and the quarterback tore his ACL and you're playing with quarterbacks that nobody remembered was still in the league, then you understand the wide receiver production will take a hit. But DeAndre Hopkins was also suspended for 6 games this season because of the PED failed drug test that he had at the end of last year. So in 9 games, DeAndre Hopkins still had 717 yards receiving. And that's still pretty good considering a lot of that production was working when Kyler Murray was still healthy, because DeAndre Hopkins had 103, 159, 36 and a touchdown, 98, 91, 87 and a touchdown, 79 yards in the last 2 games, 60 and 4. So he really only had like 2 bad games. And we know that was mostly without Kyler Murray on a bad football team. So the dude can still play. Now, he's not what he was when he was with the Texans. So let's go ahead and ask this question, because it is guaranteed to have people on both sides of the fence in this Titans fan base. Would you want the Titans to try to trade for wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins? Would you want for the Titans to try to trade for wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins? But first, let me tell you guys about Hughes and Coleman Injury Lawyers. They're the official injury lawyers of the Tennessee Titans. And if you've been injured in a car wreck, unfortunately, there's only one place you need to go to get all the money you deserve from that unfortunate situation of a car accident, and that is Hughes and Coleman. If you call them, they will give you a free case consultation, and that number is 800-800-4600. They've recovered over $1 billion for their clients across the state of Tennessee and in Kentucky over the previous 30-plus years, and will do the same thing for you. So if you have been injured in a car wreck, call Hughes and Coleman for a free case consultation. That's 800-800-4600, the official injury lawyers of the Titans, principal office in Nashville, Tennessee.
A to Z Sports, we're powered by BetMGM. BetMGM, light the lamp Wednesdays. You're talking about lighting the lamp. This is a great deal. Place a $25 wager on any NHL player to score a goal tonight and get $2 in free bets for every goal scored in that game. So every goal scored in that game up to $16. just opt in to Light the Lamp Wednesday in your BetMGM app. So this is a great promo for if you have BetMGM, take advantage of this. This is Light the Lamp Wednesday. I got a feeling we're going to be lighting the lamp on Wednesdays quite a bit.
That's
if
right.
You're a new user, go ahead and use the promo code ATOZ Sports right there on the screen. That's all one word, no spaces, ATOZ Sports. They are the king of sportsbooks. That's BetMGM.
All right, so going back on Jordan Schultz report that the Cardinals plan to try to trade wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. He has 2 years left on his deal, $34 million on the contract, and likely to seek a new contract if that trade is made. And the Cardinals are going to make this happen as they look to hire and interview new GMs and making this a part of that new GM's first 10 days or whatever it might look like. So we asked you guys the question, would you want the Titans to try to trade for DeAndre Hopkins? So, Zach, do you want to go to the chat? I can hit the chat if you want me to, but let's go ahead and get to it. Jay says yes. Andre says no for DeAndre. Let's see. Jeff Roberts says the Titans ain't getting Hopkins anyway. Got more to worry about than a 30-year-old wide receiver who want to be paid more than $22 a year. Jared says no, it's objectively stupid. Then Jermel says yes, for sure. And then Timothy says hell no. Then Michael says no way. We got some absolutely not. So we got to know. There's a yes from Xavier. Jay says sure. Nick says depends on what the Titans trade away. No from Seth. No from Jarrell. No from not Stretch Armstrong. No from Rod. Steven says no, this has got to stop. So Zach, there's a lot more no's. But Jay says, please trade him to show what Treylon Burks needs to do. So there are absolutely some yeses. Caleb says, yes, he would. Orlando says, yes. Matt says, yes. Titan FDW says, yep. Zach, what do you think?
Well, I'll start with Noah's comment with a little jackpot money, a little jackpot bucks. Says, I would put this in the same category as Julio Jones, except probably 2 years ahead of when the Titans got him. I see 3 years in DeAndre Hopkins. Would love it for his Madden Ultimate Team, though. Any player to play a snap for the Titan counts. So I think there's a lot of layers to what this potential trade would look like. And I think the first layer is the new general manager, right? So the new general manager has got to come in, and this is where I would say my answer is no, because the new general manager immediately trading away assets for an older player. Now, you're not going to have to give up a first-round pick. I don't think that he's going to yield that, but he's going to cost you a lot of money. And I also think it will bring up old wounds, which is A.J. Brown. You're sitting here saying you're going to trade for a wide receiver and pay him a buku of money, but you're not willing to draft a guy. And again, I know it's a different general manager, but I do think that brings up an open wound that DeAndre Hopkins and or Treylon Burks, I don't think are going to be at the production level of A.J. Brown. And it's a hard pill to swallow. And the Titans are in a rebuild mode or a reset mode. Let's say reset. I think the offense, I think the Arizona Cardinals are more in a rebuild mode, and I think the Tennessee Titans are more in a reset mode. Now, that can change very quickly if the Titans don't find a quarterback. Then they turn into rebuild. And so right now they're in reset. When you reset, I don't think you trade for a 30-plus wide receiver that you're going to have to give up assets, especially when you're on the scene as a brand new general manager. And here's the other thing, and the last thing that I'll say is, because we don't know truly what the Titans' offense in 2023 is going to be, if they would have traded for DeAndre Hopkins last year, he wouldn't have been used. They just don't have the offensive philosophy for a big-name star wide receiver that they would trade for. A.J. Brown is a different beast because he was in-house, right? I mean, they had picked him, hand-picked. So my answer is no. You do not need at this juncture and this time to get involved and trade away some of your assets for an aging wide receiver. You're just not at that point.
Dom has been active in the chat on YouTube saying 31 is not old for a wide receiver anymore. And while 31's not what 31 used to be in the NFL at an offensive skill position, it's still up there. There is still a lot of tread that DeAndre Hopkins has gone throughout his NFL career when you consider that the guy has had over 1,300 targets in his career, over 850 catches, and over 11,000 yards and 70 plus touchdowns throughout his career. He's been really freaking good through 10 seasons where he's played most of them with the Texans and the last 3 with the Arizona Cardinals. And the last time Hopkins played in a full season without injury was 2020, his first year with the Cardinals, when he had 115 catches for 1,400 yards in a very productive season. The last 2 years, he had an injury in 21 that cost him the end, then the PED suspension that cost him the beginning of this year, and then Kyler Murray's injury kind of cost him the end, like I said earlier. So 31 is not ancient, but still, I'm going to ask Zach you this question. When's the last time the Tennessee Titans have acquired a veteran wide receiver and it worked? And I'm not talking about just a free agent wide receiver who's coming off of a rookie deal like Nate Washington was when the Titans acquired him from Pittsburgh in free agency. But I'm talking about the last time the Titans signed a veteran wide receiver, like a third contract type guy who has worked. Nate Washington does not count. Nate Washington doesn't count. He was off his rookie deal in Pittsburgh and came into his mid to late 20s and was good. But a third contract type of receiver that has worked for the Tennessee Titans. I mean, there's a lot of guys that they've tried on, right? Julio didn't work. Eric Decker didn't work. Andre Johnson didn't work. Eric Moulds, Randy Moss. I mean, there's been so
Justin
many.
McCarron's.
Justin McCarron's came back to the Titans on his
Didn't work,
but that wasn't, Justin McCarron's is in a completely different conversation than
you asked.
No,
you got to go back.
Yeah, but it hasn't worked.
Well, the sad part is they finally draft one and they trade him away.
David Givens didn't work. Robert Woods didn't work. And so it's like, why? Why would you try to do the same damn thing again for more money?
Well, especially, and I think this is what I was saying, is especially with the offense that you run.
Yeah, well, that's fine. But and again, there are 2 guys that I see popping up in the comments that you guys are saying worked. But again, and now there's a third guy. Those names are Nate Washington. I've been over. That doesn't count. It was a free agent deal off his rookie year in Pittsburgh. Adam Humphries doesn't count. It was a free agent deal off his rookie year from Tampa. He was like 26 when they signed him, which is typically when free agents happen. Rashard Matthews, that also doesn't count because he was coming off of his rookie deal, his first deal in Miami, and he was in his mid-20s. I'm talking about a guy who is
30 plus. Say 30 plus.
Yes, who has signed a second deal somewhere off the rookie deal, and you are acquiring him.
And Delaney Walker doesn't, because he's a tight end.
He's a tight end. It doesn't work. It doesn't.
So I think the answer is never.
Yes, I knew the answer when I asked the question. Yancey Thigpen, you can go all the way back to that. You can go all the way back to Carl Pickens and Yancey back in the 1999-2000 year. It won't work. It has not worked for the Tennessee Titans. So stop trying. I feel like I'm going Nick Saban on this thing. So quit asking. So Titans fans, some of them will slobber over the idea of DeAndre Hopkins playing in two-tone blue because of all the times DeAndre Hopkins torched the Titans secondary when he was with the Texans. But it's not, you're not signing or trading for 2019 and 2018 DeAndre Hopkins. He's now will be 3 years removed when he starts next season from his last 1,000-yard season. You don't want to rely on that.
Austin, the Titans are due.
Yeah, that's right. So you're saying there's a chance. No, there's not even a chance. It's never worked out.
Well, look at, and this is, again, you go back to the A.J. Brown wound. It's just going to hurt even more after I list this. Look at you find wide receivers in the draft. That's what college football produces. They produce good wide receivers.
Yeah.
There's so many of them. I'm going to go through this. Look at the top wide receivers in this league and their age. Jamar Chase is 22. Justin Jefferson is 23. CeeDee Lamb is 23. Deebo Samuel is 26. Devontae Adams, when he was traded last year, was 29. He was not 30 when he went to the Raiders. T. Higgins is 23. Tyreek Hill is 28. He is under 30. Jalen Waddle is 24. DK Metcalf is 25. DJ Moore is 25. AJ Brown is 25. Terry McLaurin is 26. Chris Godwin is 26. Mike Evans is 29. Jerry Jeudy is 23. I mean, this Devontae Smith is 24. The only guy.
Keep going.
I can. Cortland Sutton's 27. Amari Cooper's only 28. Here is the wild thing.
Yeah.
The two guys that you could argue that are older that are still good are one of the guys that we're talking about, DeAndre Hopkins, who is 30, that will be 31. So he's 31. Keenan Allen is 30 and will be 31. So that's the situation you are. Why are you trying to do what the league is telling you not to? That, I think, proves my point, and Austin, it proves your point. Stop trying to do what the league is telling you does not work. Don't trade for DeAndre Hopkins. Traders beware. And then the only way that you would do that is if you were a top 4 team that needs a wide receiver to get over the edge. That would be the only way that you would trade, in my opinion, for DeAndre Hopkins. Like last year, if you told me the Green Bay Packers heading into this year were going to trade for DeAndre Hopkins, finally they were going to give some help to replace Devontae Adams, but they told you that they weren't going to do that because they traded away Devontae Adams, right? So, it has to be a very special situation. And honestly, Austin, you have to have a special quarterback to justify it. And the Titans don't have that. They don't have anything close of being a special quarterback.
No, and the Titans offseason, I'm going to pause because I think we do need to kind of reset here on what this is. So before I dive deep into how I feel about this even further, Zach, tell everybody about our great sponsors, Wilson County Hyundai.
And I do have a question for you that I think goes right to what we're talking about.
Okay.
Wilson County Hyundai, if you got a question about, hey, what car should I buy? Well, I got an answer. That's Wilson County Hyundai. WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Quick trip down I-40 exit 236 in Lebanon. It is really a quick trip, and it is worth every penny because you will save a lot of pennies by buying their vehicles. They are fuel efficient, whether it's the Palisade, full-size SUV with third-row seating, the four-door sedan like the Sonata. They have the Elantra, the smaller SUVs like the Tucson and the Santa Fe. Man, Wilson County Hyundai can hook you up with the perfect ride. That is WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Also with BetMGM, it is Wednesday. Zach already hit you guys with it. I'm going to do it again. It is Light the Lamp Wednesday. So all you got to do is you opt in the Light the Lamp Wednesday offer in your BetMGM app. Then you go place a $25 wager on any NHL player to score a goal tonight. So I would just go with somebody that you feel good about scoring a goal tonight for $25. And then in that game, you get $2 in free bets for every goal scored in that game, up to 8 goals, so up to $16 in free bets. Again, it's simple. All you got to do is opt in the Light the Lamp Wednesday offer in your BetMGM app. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older, Tennessee only. All promotions subject to qualification, eligible requirements. Rewards issued with non-withdrawable free bets or credit. For bets expiring 7 days. And for problem game sport, call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. So Zach, what I was about to dive into, and then I'm curious about what your question was, is that this Titans offseason is a domino effect, but I honestly don't know what the first domino is. It's almost like it's a mystery book where after the 3rd chapter, you get to choose your route moving forward for the rest of the book, right? Is that there might be 3 first dominoes lined up, and depending on which one you knock over, it depends on how that chain reaction goes. And so the DeAndre Hopkins idea is not one of the first 3 domino options. I think you have to go through GM and quarterback and philosophy as a whole and offensive coordinator. Maybe there are like 5 first domino options before you can even get to what the chain reaction is. And so DeAndre Hopkins, the Tennessee Titans, like you said, if you're a top 4 team, if you're a team that knows what who your quarterback is, you believe in your offensive philosophy, and you think you're that extra touchdown scorer away from being a legitimate threat in the playoffs, that's who goes after DeAndre Hopkins, but not the Titans.
My question is, how much does he cost? What do you have to trade?
Yeah, and I feel like that's actually not going to be as expensive as people might first think.
Yeah, because DeAndre Hopkins, the figure, he's not 25 and playing for the Houston Texans with Deshaun Watson, right? Like, this is not that. So it is a little different of where he is and what he's done.
So I think, Robert Woods was, and I'll pull this up, and this is going to lead us somewhat to our next conversation about Bobby Trees. But Robert Woods,
it's Bobby Blank. You can say what Bobby Blank is.
Okay, but Bobby Blank, when the Titans acquired him, he had 4 years left on his deal, and an average of 10 mil a year, so like 4 years and 40 mil left on his deal. And he was, again, coming off of an ACL, going into his age 30 season. So an older wide receiver, and the Titans only gave up a 6th-round pick. DeAndre Hopkins is going to go for more than a 6th-round pick. But honestly, with the contract, the age, the last 2 years of slower production, I think a 4th-round pick is probably the right type of offer. So it's not like a crazy, ridiculous draft capital. And you also have to understand who's trading him away. The
desperate team.
The team where the owner, according to Jordan Schultz's report, the owner is telling the new GM that's not hired yet that this is a part of his job description is to trade away DeAndre Hopkins. Right? The owner's saying that.
Well, look, at least the new GM has a task.
Yes. So that's kind of how I feel about that. A 4th-round pick-ish, and the Titans' 4th-round pick is 11th overall. So that's a higher 4th-round pick.
Yes, it is. That was why it was a good thing to lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, but you're also acquiring a lot of money for a 31-year-old player in the 2023.
Yeah, so Austin, maybe losing to the Jags even further prevents them from making this mistake of trading for DeAndre Hopkins. There's another silver lining, right? I mean, however you get there. Yeah, and I don't think the Titans don't have a 4th-round pick for this season. I believe the Titans did trade away some stuff with John Robinson over the last couple of years. So it is a lighter draft capital year for the Titans right now. Connor Kills says, I think it would be more important to finding the quarterback of the future and changing our philosophy. No wide receiver they sign will ball out until they change it. I think that will go into our next conversation of what this offense represents, right? Mm-hmm. Roster is trash, needs lots of help, no quarterback to throw to him. Get Rodgers, sure, go get DeAndre. Would still rather take Higgins if we are trading. And again, T. Higgins is 23. They're not going to do that.
Who thinks the Bengals are willing to trade away T. Higgins?
Not as long as Joe Burrow's there, right? The window is always open.
So there is something to say about the Bengals, is that the Bengals owner, Mike Brown, is not exactly rich. And so at some point, Mike Brown and the Bengals are going to have to make significant business decisions on who they let walk. Can they afford to keep Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, and T. Higgins?
Right, but the Bengals are getting richer because they've hosted back-to-back playoff games.
Again, I'm not like they're getting more money, but Mike Brown is a cheaper owner and a less. I mean, again, it's not right now.
And they went to the Super Bowl last year. Like, you don't know the economical value.
But I also know that doesn't make Mike Brown rich overnight, where he can just throw massive contracts to and then the offensive line too, right? To a lot of different skill guys.
I just think that the Bengals will evolve a lot quicker than what you think, because they started their evolution with a Super Bowl appearance. And that's
Sure,
powerful.
I don't disagree, but Ryan says trade a first round pick for T. Higgins. Now that's an expensive first round pick, and I don't think that's what. But the Bengals at some point will have to make a decision. And Zach, based off of what you kind of listed there with the top wide receivers in the league, if you've already got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, then why not pay the second wide receiver in T. Higgins and go draft that second wide receiver who can come in and make an impact, because that's what the college game is telling you.
When does T. Higgins contract up though? He's 4 years after his rookie.
He was the 2020 draft because he was the Isaiah Wilson draft. So 21
2 more years.
No, he's going into his last year. 2023 will be his last year. He's a second round pick, so no 5th-year option.
Well, maybe if the Titans have a new quarterback. Again, I think the key is quarterback. Here's some jackpot dollars.
Honestly, I kind of do want to go, the Bengals could, it's not ridiculous to say the Bengals could look to move on from T. Higgins this offseason because he's going into the last year of his contract and the situation, because you're going to have to pay Burrow soon. You're going to have to pay Chase right after that. So again, I will retract. It is not ridiculous to float the Bengals being willing to listen for T. Higgins. I'm not saying they're going
it's going to be a lot more expensive than a 4th-round pick.
Yeah, but he's also
no.
And then you're gonna have to sign him too, right?
Yeah, he's going to want a contract that is closer to money he probably doesn't deserve.
That's why the offseason's great, because the NFL has become the Wild Wild West. And Jared says Fantasyland. Well, I mean, did you expect the Dolphins to go trade?
We were just talking about Fantasyland.
But did you expect, like last season, Fantasyland came to life?
Why?
Did it not? With what the NFL turned into last offseason, with all the different moves and big contracts and players being traded and signed, and it again, the NFL is becoming more like the NBA. Me and you've been talking about that for years. And so nothing is really completely off the table for the most part when it comes to players shifting like we saw last year.
So John brings up with some jackpot money, says new GM goes all in. Go after Justin Fields from the Bears. Hopkins, re-sign Foreman as running back 2. Rebuild offensive line. That gives you super talented offense that can best in run and pass, and with the great RPO as a backup. So look, I think John is talking about a much bigger conversation with Justin Fields. I do think, and we haven't really had a chance to talk about that because Todd Downing's firing and all the things that happened on Sunday, but the Texans beating the Colts is massive for the landscape of the NFL. It changed the trajectory of what the AFC South is. I truly believe that. It helped the Titans. Now, look, the Colts may come up and try to trade and draft. I mean, now the Bears have all the pieces. Yeah. They have all of the power. The negotiation power is with them of deciding, do they want to start over? What do they know about Justin Fields? Do they like what they've gotten in Justin Fields? Is he growing, right? Like all of these things, they have the keys, and the Texans have to sit back there and they can't do a damn thing. It
becomes very, like, again, that's why I gave a shout out to Lovie Smith on Monday's show of saying screw the Texans, and then just threw a complete wild card into the entire NFL season, because Lovie Smith knew the Texans were going to fire him after that game, and he said, screw it, I'm going to go cost you the number 1 overall pick. And now the NFL offseason with the Bears being number 1 overall is going to be amazing. It's perfect, amazing theater for what the next 3 months are going to be.
Yeah, and look, do the Texans try to trade with the Bears to get to number 1?
That's an option. Like, worst case scenario is the Colts trade ahead of the Texans, and then the Colts get 1, and then the Texans get the other, and now the Titans have to go against Lawrence, Stroud, and Bryce Young all in the same, but you don't know where Young or Stroud.
But you knew that that's going to happen. Like, the new generation of quarterbacks are going to come from the AFC South. Because unless Bryce Young, goes somewhere else, it is really wild to think about the impact of that Texans win. I mean,
sure, it's great. So I found this funny. For some reason, I saw a clip of the Rich Eisen show where Daniel Jeremiah said, or was asked, how would you comp Bryce Young? And he said that he's basically the stylistic play of Aaron Rodgers, but if you left him in the dryer for too long, because Bryce Young is a small, tiny, like shrunken size version of the stylistic play of Aaron Rodgers, which, he's a small guy, and Bryce Young got hurt for Alabama this past year too. So with whatever team he goes to, what's his durability like?
Yeah, but he's a very talented quarterback.
Absolutely.
And he comes from a great system under Nick Saban, right? Like, he has a lot of the thing. He's played in massive games. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. Like, he has a lot of the makeup of what you want in a franchise quarterback.
No doubt.
But the size is still glaring of you got to hold up in this league, or then all of a sudden you become Tua and you're sidelined and your team is kind of a shell of themselves no matter what the surrounding pieces are.
And it's not a height thing. It's a thickness thing with 2 C's, right? It's about that. Like Kyler Murray can be.
Can the NFL change that though?
Yeah, but Kyler Murray can be 5'8", but because he's built like a baseball player, he can take hits. The ACL doesn't count, right? We understand what that is. But, Bryce Young is under 6 foot and not thick. So that's, Jalen Hurts can squat 600 pounds, which is why he can take all the beatings and stuff like that too.
Real quick before we get to the next topic, Andre Bunny, and it's a joke, but Stetson Bennett, I am super curious to see where he lands in this whole thing.
Ah, man, I just thought of another topic.
Like, that's a guy who's played in big time games. He's been surrounded by really good players. He is a gamer. He's played a lot of football. He is anti-Caleb Farley. He has played a lot of football.
I have the perfect draft scenario comp for Stetson Bennett. Do you want it now? Because I don't think we're going to be spending too many times talking about Stetson.
No, it's January 11th. I don't want it now. The draft's not until April.
Now I'm going to give me a second. Let me type this out in our topic doc. The perfect Stetson Bennett draft comp.
There you go. This is a new thing. It's going to the topic doc. We created that this morning. It's going to the topic doc. It's January 11th. We got all off season. I think it's going to be one hell of an off season this year with all of the changes in the NFL in general, but especially with the Tennessee Titans. So put it in the topic doc.
Yeah. So now if you guys have topics that come up in the chat, we can just immediately text it in that topic doc. So this will be a group effort from everybody who watches the show. So this will be a lot of fun of how we're going to handle this offseason. All right, Zach, I'm going to tell my opinion on what I think the Titans should do with Robert Woods. And we're also going to ask you guys and go through the Robert Woods contract situation whole. But first, I guess need to tell everybody about the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, you have to know who to go to and who to trust when it comes to getting back to health for your recovery. The Bone and Joint Institute, they're fantastic. They've got over a dozen physicians there who specialize in any type of injury that you might have. And it's so easy to go check in with the Bone and Joint Institute. You go to boneandjointtn.org. You go click the make an appointment button, and then you type in your name and info. You tell them what part of your body is the problem, and then they immediately sort the doctors who are specialists for that problem. And then you just find their calendars, and then boom, there you go. I did it this past summer with Dr. Watson in my foot. I've done it in the past with Dr. Arthur for my knee and my shoulder. You guys should do it as well. Whenever injuries happen in life, the Bone and Joint Institute is there for you in Franklin, boneandjointtn.org.
It is esports. We are powered by BetMGM. Download the app today. Use the promo code for new users, ATOZ Sports. Right there on the screen, they are the king of the sports books. Plus, you can light the lamp tonight. Place a $25 wager on any NHL player to score a goal tonight and get $2 in free bets for every goal that is scored in that game, up to $16. Just opt into the Light the Lamp Wednesday on your BetMGM app. Download it today.
All right, so before we get into Robert Woods, Jared asked, what is a topic doc? So we have a document. We're talking in a brevs, man, Jared. So Zach, and Sam have a off-season show topic document that is shared between the three of us. and we are going to continuously add to it. And so you guys, Jared, and everybody else watching can have an opportunity to, when things pop up like this, we
add to the topic doc.
Add to the topic doc as we go. So Zach, let's go look at and Jared said, oh yeah, the doc, .x, right? So they're getting terminology there. So here is Robert Woods' contract, Zach, and this shows you what the Titans could save when it comes to a pre-June 1st decision and a post-June 1st decision. As we know, John Robinson acquired Robert Woods in a trade last offseason for a 6th-round pick. He was fairly cheap this past year because of the Rams contract that they signed. And when the Titans acquired Robert Woods, he had zero dead money left on his contract. Now, one of the last things that John Robinson did before getting fired as Titans GM was restructure Robert Woods' contract, which gave Robert Woods $2.6 million extra dollars this year in his pocket to create extra space for the Titans at the end of this past year, but it also added some dead cap moving forward. So it's really not that much dead cap. If the Titans decided to cut Robert Woods before June 1st, they would owe, and he would count $2.6 million on the Titans 2023 cap, but it would save over $12 million if they cut Robert Woods pre-June 1st. If they cut him post-June 1st, and this goes for every NFL player, a post-June 1st date allows the Titans to only count $866K on the cap and move 1.7 to 2024's cap. So the Titans can do this with anybody. And you can make the move before June 1st. You just designate when that happens, and you don't get that salary cap savings until June 1st. So the Titans, if they want to cut Robert Woods June 1st, they can't use necessarily that extra $12 million until that opens up on the books, like the way the Titans used Julio Jones this past summer. So let's ask everybody, what should the Titans do with Robert Woods? Just throwing it out there, what should the Titans do with Robert Woods? I think there's 3 options here. There's keep him, there's cut him, try to trade him, and then inside the trade and cut options, you have the pre and post June 1st designations there. And, Auburn brings up a good comment, like who replaces him if you do cut him? Because with every player you cut, you have to replace. And that's a good comment there. So, Zach, I'll send you the comments there.
Well, look, I'll tell you what I think.
Okay.
I believe that they need to figure out their quarterback situation first, then make a decision, right? So, they have the time. Free agency is going to come before June 1st. Free agency is going to come before the draft. And drafting a wide receiver, you need to upgrade your wide receiving core. I mean, you just do. And there's another topic, which is they need to get faster. Robert Woods, I'm not saying he's not fast. He has some speed. He's coming off of an ACL, but the Titans this year offensively were slow as molasses. Mm-hmm. They were slow. Traylon Burks is a big body receiver. NWI is a big body receiver. Chig is fast, right? If you think Chig is your fast guy in the offense, that I think is an issue.
Yeah,
you are not fast enough.
Yeah, Chig was the fastest tight end in this past draft, right? Which is a good thing, and they got him. And
Austin Hooper is not fast. He is a possession tight end. So, and Robert Woods, again, coming off of an ACL. Austin, and I don't know, because I'd like to look in the history books. I know for the Titans at least. Robert Woods is sitting there, and this past season is kind of disgraceful of what he led the Tennessee Titans regular season in receiving yards with 527. Mm-hmm. When was the last team? And you're not going to be able to answer this. So when was the last team that the leading wide receiver had 527 wide receiving yards because we had seen Delaney Walker had led the team with 1,000-yard wide receivers, and like Dorial Green Beckham was second with 500 and something back in the day.
That was literally, I just looked it up because I wanted to go 2015. 2015, Delaney had over 1,088. And
but what makes this unique, Austin, is another step. I'm talking about like in NFL history, is a wide receiver leading the team of all players, all receiving players.
So you're talking about like, the Titan, and I can just try to do my best with the Titans, but the Titans leading pass catcher having only 500 something yards.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's a first.
I'm going to do my best on the fly here.
Even Nate Washington one year, he at least had 700.
Yeah, I'm
back in one team, it's probably the Tennessee Titans because they've been a running football team for their entire franchise's life.
Or they've at least had one person that has 600 plus yards, right? Like I'm currently in 2009. Vince Young was the leading rusher or leading passer with 1,800 yards passing. Kerry Collins had 1,200. So that's 3,000 yards passing for the team. That was Chris Johnson's 2,000-yard season. Even there, Kenny Britt had 700 yards.
Jeez, I'm telling you.
And Nate had 560 and Chris Johnson had 500.
That's what I'm asking is if Robert Woods with 527 yards receiving, leading the team of all players in receiving yards.
Yeah. And this is kind of what we're going back to. If you want to get to the chat and answer questions.
I don't need to go to the chat. I think this right here tells us exactly what we need to know about this offense and where they are and Robert Woods. Robert Woods also played every single solitary game.
Yeah. In 2008, Justin Gage had over 600 yards in 16 games. Robert, again, this is still in one less game. 2006, Drew Bennett had 730. 2005, I'm scrolling back. 2005, man, it's just weird. Drew Bennett 738, Aaron Kinney 540, and Ben Troop 530.
Aaron Kinney had more receiving yards as a tight end in the smash mouth era of football than the Tennessee Titans had in 2022, with the Robert Woods having 527 yards receiving, leading all players.
Yeah, it's bad, right? It's
not bad.
It's pathetic.
Again, let's not be nice. This is disastrous. This is historic. This is historically bad, right?
Yeah. So,
we never come up with that, right? Like the Titans feed out all these stats, like Ryan Stonehouse. What a great leg! He broke the history books in the NFL of the best. Why don't they put out what Robert Woods did for this team with 527 yards receiving, leading all players ever?
Oh, Zach, they put out Robert Woods, got the team award for best leadership. That's if we're being honest and not nice, that's what the Titans are doing when they're talking about Robert Woods.
Come on. This is that's the saddest stat I have ever heard.
In 1997, Tennessee Oilers, Frank Wycheck had 748. Willie Davis had 564.
564 is still more than 527.
Willie Davis. Anybody know who Willie Davis is? Anybody know what number Willie Davis wore in his jersey?
No clue.
Yeah, 84. So again,
this is the history. This is the worst. And in Titans history, I think we've confirmed, right? I mean, it is confirmed.
I haven't gone through every year, but I've gone through the years that I think had the best options. So since they have come to the state of Tennessee.
And was Willie 84?
Willie was number 84. Yeah. So
there
Willie,
we got
Ronnie
some
and Dion
guys.
got that right.
We got some people in the chat. Shout out to Scott, Ronnie, and Dion. They got that right. That was pretty good.
I'm going to go back to did I go to 2014? I think I did, because somebody just mentioned the Dexter McCluster years. And even then, again, you had Delaney. You had Delaney and Kendall Wright and Nate Washington.
We're talking about singular player leading receiver yards.
Yeah, it's bad. And again, all the seasons that I listed prior were with one less game than what Robert Woods had. And look, Robert Woods was not good. We know that. Neither was the Titans offensive line, and they had three quarterbacks who started multiple games. So there was a lot to go with this. but it was really bad.
So here's the thought. What should they do with the Robert Woods, in your opinion?
I think, Zach, they don't need to even worry about the June 1st date, because as I mentioned, here's Robert Woods' contract. If you cut Robert Woods pre-June 1st, it counts 2.6 on your cap. If you cut Robert Woods after June 1st, it's only $866K on your cap, and you can save $12 million this year or 13.7. So, Zach, I went and looked at Spotrac for the salary cap. Currently, the Titans' estimated salary cap space right now is negative $25.5 million. You do not have the ability to wait to get $12 million back from the waste of Robert Woods' contract. You have to cut that guy as soon as possible so you can even start to plan other things. Like, you have to create space to go do stuff in March. And if you try to mess around, because what's the difference here, Zach? Like, it's not, we're splitting $2.6 million between 2 years. Yeah, you might gain an extra 1.7 on this year's cap, but you need that 12.0 right now to go do stuff to make your football team better. Bobby Trees, Jonathan, he's Bobby leaves. He's out of here by pre-free agency. The Titans have to go into free agency with that $12 million from Robert Woods' contract available to him.
Yeah, well, you're going to cut him. You're going to cut Lawan.
And we don't have to go too deep.
No, I know. But all I'm saying is, like, to your point, the GM's going to come in. The GM for the Cardinals is going to come in and trade DeAndre Hopkins. The new GM for the Tennessee Titans is going to come in and cut players.
Yeah, and that's their job. Like, that, they have to create space. The Titans do not have the ability to wait on the Robert Woods decision and designate him as a post-June 1st. There are a bunch of other players that the Titans can move on from and excuse me, and save a lot of money. But again, like Ryan Tannehill, and we'll talk about this, and this is already in the Google topic doc, is that Ryan Tannehill is somebody that you can flirt with June 1st. But Robert Woods is somebody, do it now and get that $12 million back so the new GM has an opportunity to make the team better.
Real quick, and we'll move on to throwing shade. Andre gives a little lunch money and says, Buck was saying that Titans don't need to change style, compared to them to the Dolphins, Ravens, 49ers, and Eagles. That is interesting. I would disagree. And that's also in the topic doc. Yeah, I would disagree with Buck. But look, that's why we have these shows. Is Buck has his opinion. I have my opinion. Austin has his opinion. Sam has his. Everybody has their opinion. The chat has theirs. I adamantly disagree. I think that the style – I knew, and I would say I knew that the Titans style had a ceiling and it was lower than the Super Bowl, and they just kept pounding until Derrick Henry, which is another topic, started to make mistakes, which is unfortunate, but it happened. And so, look, we're not going to see the same football team. Ryan Tannehill is also a massive topic of what you're going to do, but Austin, I'm glad we filled in. We did. You, Bobby, in the chat filled in the blank of my game right here. The official fill in the blank is Bobby leaves. There you go.
Bobby leaves. I like that. And Dom says that's not what Buck said. LOL. Look, Buck says a lot of things because that's the nature of his career, and we say a lot of things, the nature of our careers as well. So. Who knows what Buck said or didn't say at one particular time. But yeah, that's the situation. The Titans don't need to mess around with June 1st with Robert Woods. Go ahead and do it now. Get that $12 million back as soon as you can to give that new GM an opportunity to get this thing rolling. All right, Zach, let's move forward to wrap up this Wednesday with throwing shade. We always throw shade on Wednesdays to wrap up the show. And Ryan had his shade locked in, over an hour ago. With his shade. So let's hear it now from all of you guys. But first, Zach, tell everybody about our great sponsor, and that would be Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Hey, FBHP.com is where to go. Health, dental, and vision. They will help you out, whether you go into a walk-in clinic, whether you go to the doctor, whether you have dental, vision. I mean, they've got you hooked up. 200-plus locations across the state of Tennessee. I changed my plan, and when I did, I was really glad that I did. I saved money, 20% per month when I switched to Farm Bureau Health Plans. quick health assessment. It's like 25 minutes. Got a quote, and I realized, wow, this is the route that I needed to go. FBHP.com/A to Z. You could talk to a representative. I like to talk to people. I like to ask a lot of questions. I want to be as efficient as I possibly can. And they afforded me that opportunity, and they've been great. The communication, which is key, has been great with Farm Bureau Health Plans. FBHP.com/A to Z. You can go get your quote today.
Also, don't forget it's Wednesday, right? So that means two things: shade and light the lamp, baby, because it's Light the Lamp Wednesday with BetMGM and hockey tonight. So here's what you got to do. You open your BetMGM app and log in. You go opt in to the Light the Lamp Wednesday feature. And what you do is you put a $25 wager on any hockey player to score a goal tonight. And then you get $2 in free bets for every goal scored in that game, up to $16 in free bets. So, hey, by the way, Nashville's won 4 in a row. How about that? But so you can go do Light the Lamp Wednesday in the NHL tonight with the BetMGM app. Once again, a $25 wager on any player to score 1 goal throughout the game, and $2 in free bets for every goal scored in that game, up to $16. Zach, it is time for us to throw some shade. Day here on a Wednesday, lots of shade flying in. I'm curious to see what the shade is from the chat. So go ahead and get your shade in. I see Nick right now says throwing shade at ESPN for putting basketball games from the best conference, the Big 12, on ESPN Plus instead of cable channels. Just keep SEC and ACC games on the network. So Nick throwing shade at contracts for TV rights there too. So it's college basketball season. It's time to jump back into that. I watched a little bit of Tennessee Vanderbilt last night too there as well. So Danny says shade on people thinking Derek Carr is an upgrade over Tannehill. Carr behind this O-line with these receivers would have been horrific numbers. Denise says shade on Downing for not getting his 3-game suspension, and now he's fired. So, you know, I guess that was the 3-game suspension. That was a maximum penalty under the CBA for DUIs, I believe, in the NFL. Is that what Denise is referring to?
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to get suspended, and he didn't. I don't know. So I don't know what the penalty was.
Yeah. So more shade to get to. Billy just throws shades on Bobby Trees. Auburn Titan fan says shade on Titans horrible secondary and offense. Let's see. Brad says weird shade. This is what shade's all about. Weird shade. Beavers dropping all the nice tree at his local park. So Brad's got a beaver problem wherever Brad lives.
Beavers are they endangered?
I have no idea.
I gotta look this up because beavers are a nuisance. They are. Beavers are threatened by habitat loss and conflict with humans. So it goes right on point of conflict with humans. They are a nuisance because they do those type of things. I don't know if they're endangered though.
They're not endangered. Danny says they're not endangered. But again, like endangered.
One of these articles is coexisting with beavers.
Well, I mean, if Brad's going to figure that out, so maybe Brad has some reading to do. But, you know, endangered is a different level of of problem. Like obviously with development, you've got like foxes and coyotes and deer and other raccoons, beavers, other types of wildlife that has to get replaced or, whenever development happens. And maybe, Brad's local park's got a beaver issue. I don't know.
Here's some weird shade. Dion says, my shade is on body odor. No matter how many times I bathe or shower, it eventually keeps coming back. I mean, come on, man. So I think you need to kind of take assessment of your soap and shampoo that you're using, and then your deodorant. And Dion, we hope that you use deodorant. That could, be one of those solutions.
Yeah. And hopefully you don't have any aluminum in that deodorant.
Ryan's throwing shade on you.
Bring it.
Shade on Austin for the amount of hate he has for Will Levis just because he played at Kentucky. Take the Homer glasses off, Austin.
Oh, Homer glasses are off. Will Levis is not a first-round quarterback. Like, I mean, traits.
That's going to be one to watch. We're going to have fun for a while watching that.
Yeah, it is. And like Will Levis, Will Levis is not quite Mitch Trubisky because Will Levis played more in college and has more offensive production and tape. But, Will Levis is that type of quarterback who's got the traits, but you have not seen it translate into success. And so, Will Levis can play in the NFL for 8 to 10 years, but he should not be picked in the top 10. Like, I feel like that's an okay thing for me to say.
Okay.
And Kentucky's season was a complete disaster.
Here's one shade I agree on with Connor, throwing shade at fans who think that Dobbs' fumble was a forward pass. It was a fumble. Get over it. I agree. It was a fumble. Get over it. And I also saw somebody put up like a Tom Brady throw that was completely different than what Dobbs was. Dobbs, the ball went back. It didn't go forward. And so it was a fumble. And then MB, I think this is a bigger conversation, but MB says shade on the Texans for going one and done with black head coaches in back-to-back years when the NFL is trying to promote diversity. And MB, I think this is the tough part about that is owners, the NFL are making rules and regulations to try to become more diverse within head coaches, which I think is a positive thing. But you are also not going to prevent owners from being impatient. They're impatient. They want to win. And so when you don't win, like really what we should be talking about, and the NFL actually sent out a memo this season of the amount of money, which was close to $1 billion, that NFL owners are paying coaches not to coach after being fired. And so I do think, look, the diversity is a problem, but a bigger problem is the impatience, is they are not willing to stick with the coaches that they hired. It's not the fact, like, I'm not saying that the Texans were not forced to hire Lovie Smith because he was African-American. I do think that there was pressure based on the Josh McCown and all that other stuff. There was
and because they fired David Culley, who was black, right?
So they were not forced. There was not a gun to Cal McNair's head to force him to hire Lovie Smith. What I think the real problem is the impatience of owners, of willingness to move on because they're not winning.
Yeah, and so I think the problem with the Texans is that they did it in back-to-back years the same way, and it's showing no real efforts to build something, right?
But they also were held hostage by the Deshaun Watson situation.
Lovie Smith was not.
No, I didn't say that.
David Culley, yes.
The Texans as a franchise, they either were they were playing hardball, right? They sat DeAndre Hopkins and paid him because they were waiting to get value for him. Yeah. And once they did, then so unfortunately it was at Culley and Lovie Smith's expense, was I think directly stemmed from the Deshaun Watson debacle of the last 4 years.
Yeah. And
so that, again, but nobody talks about that. And I want, there are details within this. So yes, does the NFL have to be more diverse? Absolutely. Do they have to interview more African-American coaches? Yes, I think that's the right thing. But I do see a lot of people on Twitter just throw that out, that like owners are racist without telling the full story of what the situation was at hand. You talk about context. Culley and Lovie Smith, that needed the Deshaun Watson context of what the franchise was going through. Now, I'm not saying that it was, their fault. It was the franchise's fault. But the franchise wanted to get as much as they could out of their quarterback when their quarterback did wrong. Yeah, they did, and now they're impatient. The NFL has an impatient problem more so, I think, than the overarching, hey, everybody is racist. That's just my opinion.
What the Texans should have done is not fire David Culley after 1 year. Like, there was no point to that. Like that, again, it's the back-to-back moves that the Texans
but it is their prerogative. They can do whatever they want.
obviously they own the football teams and owners can do whatever they want, but it's also a lot of times an old boys club of hire who you know and hire who people know. And so the point is, and the NFL is trying to start the diversity lower and have the ability for more opportunity to climb, because there needs to be more general managers that are not white. There needs to be more owners who are not white, but that's it. We talked about this last offseason, a generational financial wealth thing with ownership, but you have to have more coordinators, more head coaches, more director of player personnel, more director of scouting staffs be diverse with minorities in order to have more head coaches and more GMs and then more team presidents to be able to go that way.
And Jeff is correct. It is bad optics of what the problem at hand, which I think we both confirmed there is a problem, right?
Yeah.
Is talking the conversation about the problem. I am not one that just you should call everybody racist if there's a problem. And I do think that you see that a lot on Twitter. I do think it is bad optics of what has happened, but I also think that we need to have constructive conversations about the problem and why the problem is where it is.
Yeah.
And I also think that that is stemmed from the white owners being very impatient.
Yeah,
and that is not discussed enough.
And so Eric says no black owner says a lot about the NFL. So why are there no black owners right now? We have to think about this generationally, right? Because what did America do to black people 60, 70, 80 years ago, right? And so where generational wealth to buy an NFL team comes is over multiple generations. And so a lot of the current owners are either inheriting teams from their parents who were able to build that generational wealth, or had
not
their
wanting
generational
to
wealth
sell the team.
Yes, or had their generational wealth come from other businesses through generations and then able to purchase NFL teams. Like Peyton Manning is one of the richest athletes to play at this level. Peyton Manning is not rich enough to buy an NFL team. And so that's says a lot, right? Like you have to have so much freaking money to be able to do that. And the only way to do it is to have generational wealth.
And if you inherit it, you may not want to sell the team. And if you don't sell, and that's your prerogative. And so this is a much bigger, I mean,
yeah.
I know we went down a road, but I do think that there's value to this conversation of the why. Now, the more conversations on that the top of this multi-billion-dollar conglomerate of what the NFL represents does need to be diversified. I think, I mean, you and I think a lot of people in the chat agree with that. It is why it's not and how it can be. And how it can be is very difficult because of ownership, right? If you own something, the right of America is you do not have to sell that. Now, we've seen forced sales and other things like that, but you don't have to. And so that's where it is very difficult, where Austin, I agree with you. The only thing of the how is time. And
unfortunately,
and I think
and
owners, like owners, here's the last thing I'll say, and I'll be quiet. Like owners, society and Twitter is impatient. And so that's where we are.
I think it's time and legitimate effort, right? And you have to have both of those things. Legitimate effort needs to happen. And look, the Texans look really bad, and I think that they should not have
optics.
Yeah, but the Texans did David Culley wrong, and that created the snowball that did Lovie Smith wrong. But props to Lovie Smith for being able to screw the Texans out of that first overall pick. All right, Zach, what's your shade today?
My shade is really quick, simple, and easy. So if you've been following the Idaho murders, right, which is heating up, the Idaho murders, it's a terrible, mass murdering of 4 young college students in Idaho. They've caught the guy. My shade is the TikTok detectives. If you look at TikTok, everybody and their mother is a detective. They're writing stories and interviewing people that went on Tinder dates with the accused murderer in like 2015. And then they're saying good information, then they're also saying terrible information. And then they're also, I think, at a point in time, they were hindering the true detectives, the FBI, trying to solve this case. So my shade is on TikTok detectives that go on there, and they have a ton of following because everybody is so intrigued with what this story is, which I understand, but they don't need to be doing detective work. So that is my shade.
Fair. My shade today is pretty simple. I think it's about the college football national championship game. It was boring as it gets. Like, I quit watching pre-halftime. I knew my BetMGM Georgia minus 13.5 spread bet was in the bank, and so I felt good. But people who are I am throwing shade at people who are attacking TCU for the abomination that game was. TCU earned the right to play in that game, in my opinion. I thought the resume earned them an opportunity to be in the top 4, and they won a semifinal game to earn the right to play for a national championship. The problem is the current setup. It's impossible to actually know who the top 4 teams are in the country. And so, because we can't compare resumes equally to know if TCU is one of the best 4, but they beat Michigan, so they earned the right to be there. Would Alabama have given Georgia a better game? Yeah. Ohio State did. Would Tennessee be able to give Georgia a better game if they played in a rematch? Probably. Would Michigan have? Maybe, but they lost at TCU, so screw Michigan. So that's the problem. It's that TCU deserved to be there. They earned that right. So don't get mad at TCU. Get mad at the system, which hopefully we are getting closer to change.
Should have been changed a long time ago. Been preaching that for years, Austin. Been telling you that literally since we were on radio. The system will change. That will fix a lot of these issues because you'll weed out the teams that don't deserve. TCU earned the right because of Michigan. I agree with that. But would they have gotten there if they had to play 2 other games? Maybe not. They just lost to Kansas State, right? There's not enough teams in the effing playoff. That's what I've been telling you for years. So that's that.
Yeah, there you go. Eric, we are not censoring your comments. We read your comment to start the whole conversation. So we're not censoring anybody, but that'll wrap it up for us on this Wednesday. Again, we got the offseason topic document rolling for the Titans. So we're going to have a lot of great conversations moving forward, especially about the 2 guys you see on the screen right now. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You like the show before you go, whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube. Give the show a thumbs up, and we would greatly appreciate that, and subscribe to our channel because we got tons of content rolling forward. Buck Rising will be live tonight for A to Z Sports Primetime at 8 Central Time. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning on a Thursday at 8 a.m. Talk to you then. Appreciate it as always.